For 10 years, Alana Brooks, the top student who vanished after a scandal, had been hiding in plain sight, using a waitress apron as armor. That armor disintegrated the moment Ethan Cole, the man whose high-powered circle helped ruin her, spoke her name. He came offering a shock of recognition and a forced, guilty smile, but she met him with a single, icy command: "You shouldn't be here." But what really froze the scene wasn't the billionaire's shock or the waitress's rage. It was the look of pure, raw fear on her boss's face. A man who recognized Ethan and knew their shared, deadly history. The secret history Alana fought to bury was now spilled all over the diner floor, and no amount of money could clean it up. Alana Brooks' 29 years was defined by the gap between where she should have been and where she was. A decade ago, she was the future. Now, she was just the waitress at the 24/7 home-style diner, wiping down booze that smelled of old grease and regret. Her silence was a shield, protecting the painful secret that fueled her relentless, double-shift schedule. The diner was usually a blur of motion, but tonight, the cold rain and late hour brought a chilling quiet. That quiet was violently shattered the second Ethan Cole, 30 years, walked in. A self-made tech millionaire, Ethan owned the expensive watch, the sharp, tailored suit, and the aura of untouchable success. He looked around, then froze. Under the harsh yellow light of the 24/7 homestyle sign, balancing a tray of half-eaten fries and a sweating glass of iced tea, was Alana Brooks. Alana. The name felt like a relic from a life he'd actively erased, a ghost from the manicured lawns of Ridgeway High. His brain flashed a picture of her in a crisp blue graduation robe, then snapped back to the present. The woman before him was sharp-boned, wearing a coffee-stained apron and shoes built for pain. Her eyes, once quick, luminous, were now shielded by a profound, practical fatigue. It looked like they'd seen too much and chosen to remember none of it. This can't be right. He had typed her name into Google exactly once a decade ago, found nothing, and filed the resulting guilt under unresolved youth issues. His billions couldn't track what she had so completely scrubbed. A loud, demanding voice broke the spell. "Brooks, move it. Table 3 needs their check and stop daydreaming. We don't pay you to look out the window." Alana flinched, not at the tone, but at the sound. She turned, her posture instantly defensive, ready to face the manager, Derek Wells, a man whose face seemed permanently set on the disgust channel. That's when her eyes locked onto Ethan. She stopped moving. Her breathing hitched, a tiny, almost inaudible stutter in the noise of the diner. The metal tray in her hands, holding the precarious architecture of diner refuse, began to tremble. Ethan's mouth worked, forming the word that had sat dormant for 10 years. "Alana." The sound was soft, personal, a confession, not a greeting. The tray didn't just fall, it shattered. The iced tea glass exploded on the greasy linoleum in a crystalline spray. The noise was violent, silencing the rain, the music, and the low chatter of the late-night clientele. Every head in the place swiveled. Alana didn't look at the mess. Her gaze, now glacial, was fixed only on him. Ethan smiled, a weak, hopeful attempt at connection. She cut him off, her voice a low, hostile whisper that demanded to be obeyed. "You shouldn't be here." A moment stretched, thick with shared, unspoken history. It was a threat, a plea, and a wall all in 4 words. Derek Wells rushed toward the mess, his face contorted in anger. But when he saw the expensive suit and the man standing over the waitress, when he fully registered Ethan Cole, the anger evaporated. It was replaced by something colder, something quick and utterly revealing: fear. Derek immediately looked away from Ethan, focusing his furious eyes on Alana, but his breath was shallow. "He knows me," Ethan thought, but the name, the face, the memory, they were blank. Alana reached for a napkin, ignoring the mess, ignoring the shock, trying desperately to shrink into the floor. But the silence had drawn a line in the sand. Ethan knew, with a sudden, sinking dread, that he couldn't step back over it. The secret history had just been spilled all over the diner floor. To understand Alana's cold fire, you had to look back 10 years to Ridgeway High. Alana was the girl who belonged on the cover of the college acceptance brochures. Valedictorian, captain of the debate team, and utterly brilliant. She carried the weight of her entire family's hope on her shoulders, and she wore it with proud ease. She was the star the school paraded for fundraising, the kind of student who earned her success twice over. Ethan, back then, was the wealthy kid dating the popular, manipulative girl, Grace Holloway. He admired Alana from afar, secretly drawn to her fierce intelligence, an intelligence Grace always mocked as too serious or too much. Ethan remembered the exact day the world tilted. It was the night before the final exams, the results of which determined the prestigious Monroe Scholarship. That scholarship was Alana's golden ticket out of her neighborhood and into the life she'd earned. Without it, the future was simply impossible. He had been at a party with Grace when the sirens blared at the high school. The next morning, the news spread like wildfire. Stolen exam papers had been found, and they had been found in Alana's locker. The details were thin, the timing horrific. Alana swore her innocence. She said she was framed by someone with access to the key. But the proof was damning. The school board was ruthless, and the scandal was quickly sealed to protect the school's reputation. I always thought she did it, Ethan muttered to himself in the present, still standing near the diner counter. That's how Grace explained it, that she was too desperate. The guilt was a sudden, physical ache. He believed the easy lie Grace gave him, that Alana was desperate and had finally cracked under the pressure of having everything to lose. He had never questioned it. He simply let her vanish, convinced his hands were clean. The expulsion hit Alana like a punch. But the real blow came hours later. Her mother, Marla Brooks, a woman who had worked 2 jobs for years to keep Alana in that school district, collapsed from stress and was hospitalized. Alana was alone, facing the ruin of her future and the immediate fear for her mother's life and mounting medical bills. The tragedy was layered, designed for maximum destruction. But the final twist of the knife? The Monroe Scholarship didn't disappear. It had to go to someone. It went to Grace Holloway, who had suddenly presented a brilliant, complex essay on racial inequality and systemic hurdles, a topic Grace had never cared about or debated. Ethan finally saw the bitter truth. The life Alana should have lived was the one Grace was currently enjoying. The woman in the apron was the result of a single, brutal night. Ethan couldn't leave. He ordered coffee he didn't want, sitting at a corner booth where he could watch Alana clean up the mess he caused. She moved with efficient, silent fury, her face unreadable. He pulled Derek aside, dragging the nervous manager into the small, grimy hallway leading to the restrooms. "Derek," Ethan started, his voice commanding. "Tell me about Alana Brooks. How long has she worked here? And why do you call her trouble?" Derek's fear was still thick, but he now wore a practiced, defensive sneer. "Long enough. Look, sir, she's trouble. Always has been. The girl has an attitude, a chip on her shoulder. We only keep her because she's fast and cheap." "Trouble?" Ethan pressed. "What kind of trouble?" Derek shrugged, wiping his hands on his apron. "She's just intense. You hear things, about her past, trying to cheat her way into a good life, failing, and now she's stuck. It's what happens when people get too big for their britches. She deserved what she got, if you ask me." Ethan felt a cold spike run down his spine. "That's a strangely specific thing to say, Derek. Did you go to Ridgeway High?" Derek laughed, a quick, dismissive sound. "Me? No way. I'm from the West Side, sir. Never went to fancy school like that. I just heard the rumors, same as everyone else in this neighborhood." "You heard the rumors about her trying to cheat her way to a good life?" Ethan repeated, his tone flat. "That's not a generic rumor. That's a very particular accusation from a decade ago. It was a sealed police report." Derek swallowed hard, caught in his own lie. "Look, sir, I got work to do. Just leave her alone. She needs this job more than you need to play detective." Ethan watched him hurry away, the fake professionalism failing. Derek wasn't just a petty boss. He was a guard dog protecting something. Ethan took his seat and picked up his cold coffee cup. A small, crumpled photo had fallen out of Derek's apron pocket. Ethan discreetly picked it up. It was an old, faded school photo. It showed a group of students in front of the Ridgeway High entrance. In the middle, standing near a celebratory banner, was a much younger, thinner Derek Wells. His hair was longer, his smirk less mean, but it was undeniably him, right there at the school during the scandal. Derek hadn't just known Ethan before. Derek had been at Ridgeway High when Alana was expelled. He wasn't some random West Side manager. Derek knew the scandal because he was there to witness it, or maybe even help create it. The pieces clicked with brutal, horrifying logic. Derek wasn't afraid of Ethan's money. He was afraid of Ethan recognizing him and exposing his connection to the sealed, decade-old tragedy. The whole time Alana had worked here, Derek had been her jailer. Ethan's coffee remained untouched. The image of the young, grinning Derek at Ridgeway had shattered the last of Ethan's 10-year-old self-deception. He couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't just stood by. He had actively helped the cover-up through his own carelessness. He thought back to the agonizing days following Alana's expulsion. He was confused, saddened, but ultimately protected by the bubble of his wealthy, uncomplicated life. He hadn't seen Alana again until he ran into her in the hospital lobby. Her mother was being stabilized upstairs. Alana was standing by a payphone, a relic even then, looking impossibly small, her shoulders shaking. Ethan approached her, offering money, offering condolences. She had looked at him, not with bitterness, but with a plea that sliced through his privilege. "Ethan, I need your help," she'd said. "I know your father is on the school board. He can look at the evidence. He can talk to the teachers who loved me. Please, I'm innocent, but I can't fight this and pay for Mom's care. I'm begging you. Just ask him to look." He remembered nodding, feeling noble and overwhelmed. "I will. Send me the details. Send me whatever you have. I'll ask my father to look into it right away." Ethan swore he never got the message. He waited a day, then two. When she didn't send anything, he let the guilt subside, convincing himself she was either too proud or too guilty to follow through. He told himself he'd offered help, but she refused it, letting him off the hook. Now, sitting in the diner, the truth slammed into him. He checked his phone logs from 10 years ago. It was a digital archive, but he searched anyway, deep into his old messaging accounts. There was a ghost of a folder, a place where a message had been initiated, but the content was wiped, the notification long gone. He pulled up his old chat with Grace Holloway, his girlfriend at the time. It took him 30 minutes to realize the full extent of Grace's cold, calculated cruelty. He recalled a casual, forgotten conversation they had the night after he spoke to Alana. "Ethan, Alana asked me to help her. I told her to send me details." Grace, laughing, "Oh, Ethan, she's trying to use you. Don't fall for that sob story. You know she's a fraud. I already cleaned out your inbox, so you wouldn't be tempted. Seriously, let it go. It's done. You're too soft." He remembered being annoyed, but ultimately grateful for her protection from drama. He allowed his manipulative girlfriend to protect him from a situation that felt too complicated and messy. Grace hadn't just stolen Alana's scholarship. She had actively intercepted and deleted the only chance Alana had to prove her innocence and secure help for her mother. The betrayal was not just a crime of opportunity. It was an act of total digital and emotional warfare designed to keep Alana down and silent. Ethan looked at the shattered ceramic pieces on the floor. It wasn't just Alana's tray that broke tonight. It was the dam of his 10-year denial. Ethan walked back to Alana's table, ignoring the watchful, nervous eye of Derek. "Alana, we need to talk," he said, his voice low and urgent. She didn't look up, instead furiously polishing an already clean patch of the countertop. "We have nothing to talk about, Mr. Cole. I'm not asking for your pity, and I'm definitely not asking for your charity. This isn't charity. This is me apologizing for being a coward. And I have proof that Grace deleted your messages." She stopped scrubbing. Her eyes, filled with a sudden, painful flicker of hope and immediate denial, finally met his. "I don't care. It's too late. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to wipe down table 4 before Derek loses his mind." Before she could move, Derek suddenly appeared, planting himself directly in front of her. His face, realizing Ethan wasn't leaving, switched back to aggressive disgust, louder this time. "Oh, look at this, Alana," Derek sneered, loud enough for the 4 remaining customers to hear clearly. Your rich boyfriend is here to save the day. Did you finally beg him for a handout? What did you tell him? That you needed money for your little charity case. The slur hit the air like a physical blow. Alana flinched, her eyes widening in humiliated fury. Ethan's control snapped. He rose slowly, using his height and the full, terrifying weight of his current status. You will refer to her by her name, Ethan said, his voice deadly quiet, echoing the rain outside. And you will apologize for that remark right now, or I will buy this entire establishment, fire every person on this shift, and turn the lot into a toxic waste dump by morning. The customers, a tired young woman on her phone, an elderly couple, and a student in a hoodie, froze. Derek's face went white. He knew this man could execute the threat. You can't threaten me, he stammered. Try me, Ethan challenged. He put two hands on the counter, leaning in. You have 5 seconds to apologize to Alana Brooks for calling her a charity case. Derek was hyperventilating, his eyes darting to the elderly couple who looked appalled. I didn't mean it, he mumbled, addressing the floor. Not good enough, Ethan said, pushing him further. Look at her and say it. Derek finally looked at Alana, who stood perfectly straight, refusing to blink. I apologize, he mumbled, utterly defeated. He scrambled back into his office. From behind the elderly couple, the tired young woman in the hoodie, Samantha Lee, was holding her phone perfectly still. She wasn't calling a friend. She was recording the entire confrontation, capturing every word, every look of racist contempt from Derek, and every syllable of Ethan's terrifying defense. Alana looked at Ethan, her breathing ragged, her eyes blazing with an emotion Ethan couldn't read. It wasn't gratitude. It looked like pure, profound anger at the sudden public spectacle. Now look what you did, Alana hissed, pulling off her apron. You made me a spectacle. I quit. She walked straight into the back room, disappearing before Ethan could speak. The raw footage of the confrontation was already being uploaded to the internet, ready to shatter Alana's desperate privacy and change everything. The entire world is about to see the private war she fought to keep hidden. But how will Alana react when the viral clip ensures she has nowhere left to hide? The clip didn't walk, it exploded. It was titled, Billionaire Defends Waitress from Racist Boss. Samantha, the student who recorded it, posted it at 1 a.m. By the time the sun came up, it had 5 million views. The public reaction was intense, fueled by a craving for class warfare and instant justice. Ethan Cole, the self-made tech magnate, was suddenly a hero, a champion of the working class. He was praised for his righteous fury and his willingness to stand up to the small-minded bully. But the praise for Ethan became a spotlight of judgment on Alana. The comment section was a disaster. Why didn't she quit sooner? She's clearly lazy. She's lucky a rich guy noticed her. Now she's set. That look on her face wasn't gratitude. It was pure gold digger planning. Alana's phone, which she rarely checked, began to buzz with messages from high school acquaintances, most of them cruel or laced with pity. The humiliation is worse than the poverty, she told her mother, Marla, that morning. Her mother was frail, recovering slowly from years of stress, and watching the news coverage. They don't know who you are, baby, Marla whispered, squeezing Alana's hand. They never did. Let them talk. They're calling Derek a racist pig, which he is, but they're calling me a charity case again. Ethan brought this storm to my doorstep. Ethan, meanwhile, had his public relations team trying to track Alana down. They couldn't find her. She had blocked his number, his emails, and all his professional accounts the second she walked out of the diner. She was gone. Later that afternoon, Alana got a call from the diner owner, a man named Mr. Giannis, who sounded terrified of a lawsuit. Alana, I am so sorry, Mr. Giannis stammered. But this video, it's causing a firestorm. We've had protesters, threats. Derek has been suspended, but, you've brought too much negative attention. Are you firing me? Alana asked, her voice flat. We're saying, you're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. We'll mail your final check. Please, Alana, stop talking to the media. We just want this to stop. Alana hung up the phone. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She felt a sickening confirmation. The rich man's defense had cost her the only thing she had left: her job, her privacy, and her hard-earned invisibility. The money meant nothing to Ethan, but the job meant everything to Alana. Twist. It was a quiet termination, but it wasn't enough for Alana. She walked back to the diner one last time, not for her check, but to take control of the narrative. Alana pulled a crisp, single sheet of paper from her pocket. She marched into the empty diner just before the lunch rush, ignoring the new manager who was nervously wiping down tables. "I need to leave this for Mr. Giannis," Alana stated, placing the folded note firmly on the counter. The new manager, a timid young man named Ben, looked at the note and then at Alana with cautious awe. "The one from a video, right? You're a legend." "No," Alana replied, smoothing the edges of the note. "I'm just unemployed. Tell Mr. Giannis this is my formal resignation. I quit, effective yesterday." "You already got fired, though," Ben pointed out gently. Alana met his eye. "There's a difference between being fired and choosing to walk away. I choose the latter." She turned and left, never looking back at the broken landscape of her recent life. Ethan, meanwhile, was fighting his way through his own emotional wreckage. He called the diner, ready to offer Alana a six-figure job, a scholarship, anything. Derek's temporary replacement answered and mentioned the resignation note. "Did you read it?" Ethan demanded. "No, sir. Mr. Giannis said it was private." Ethan ended the call and drove to the diner immediately. He found Giannis, panicked and sweating, stuffing the note into a manila folder. "Mr. Giannis," Ethan commanded, his voice tight with urgency. "I need that note. Now." Giannis was terrified. "I can't, Mr. Cole. I'm required." Ethan didn't argue. He pulled out his phone, calling his head of acquisitions. "Look up the owner of 24/7 Homestyle on Elm Street. Buy the property, the business, the lot, everything. Give them 3 times the asking price. Close it in 2 hours." He hung up. Giannis watched the quick, brutal exercise of power and instantly handed over the folder. "It's all yours, sir." Ethan pulled out Alana's note. It contained only 2 simple sentences. "Mr. Giannis, please accept my formal resignation. Freedom costs less than dignity. I quit." Ethan read the words and felt a fresh wave of sick admiration. She was refusing even the dignity of being a victim. She was claiming her decision. As Ethan stood there, the transaction complete, a sleek, black sedan pulled up outside. A man in a perfect gray suit, anonymous and sharp, stepped out. He looked exactly like the kind of corporate cleanup person Ethan's firm used to deploy. The man walked past Ethan, giving him a quick, knowing nod, and then addressed Giannis. "We were told to pick up the resignation note from Alana Brooks. Did Mr. Cole already handle it?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" The man smiled, holding up a briefcase. "I work for the foundation that owns the debt on this property. They just want to make sure all loose ends were tied up." He was gone before Ethan could process the implications. Alana's resignation note was an important document for some unknown, powerful entity. The foundation, the debt, the need to tie up loose ends. It smelled like a corporate cover-up was still active. Ethan thought he was buying the truth, but he had only bought his way into a much deeper mystery. Have you ever felt like your entire life was based on a lie? Ethan was living that truth. He couldn't shake the image of the man in the gray suit the corporate cleanup crew sent to retrieve a waitress's resignation letter. It connected the 10-year-old high school scandal to the present-day business world, and Ethan's hands weren't clean. He drove straight to his father's estate. Mr. Cole, Sr., was a retired business titan who still held immense sway in the city's old money circles, including the Ridgeway High Board. Ethan slammed the old-school photo of Derek onto the polished mahogany desk. "Dad, I need you to look at this man," Ethan demanded. He managed the diner where Alana Brooks worked. "His name is Derek Wells, and he was at Ridgeway 10 years ago." Mr. Cole looked at the photo, his expression unreadable. "I don't recognize him, Ethan. What is this about?" "That girl. It's about the Monroe Scholarship. It's about Alana being framed for cheating. You told me you sealed the file to protect the school's reputation." Mr. Cole leaned back, sighing. "I did. The damage control was catastrophic. We had a board meeting, and the decision was final. The evidence was presented, the expulsion was justified, and the matter was closed. Who presented the evidence, Dad? Grace Holloway. She was distraught. She was the one who went to the principal. She provided the timeline, the witnesses, and she had the strongest academic record outside of Alana. Ethan paced the room, his frustration boiling. Derek was there, Dad. He knew too much. And the man who picked up a resignation note works for a foundation tied to the debt on that building. This isn't a sealed file. It's a cover-up. Mr. Cole's silence was the loudest sound in the room. Son, he finally said, his voice dropping to a serious tone. I will be completely honest. I didn't care if Alana was guilty. I care about the optics. My job was to protect the integrity of the board and the endowment. And the easiest way to do that was to make the problem go away. You destroyed a young woman's life to protect your money, Ethan accused. I protected the school, which protects your future, his father countered, unmoved. You need to ask yourself why you care so much now. She was expelled, and Grace got the scholarship. That's ancient history, Ethan. Ethan realized his father would never admit to wrongdoing. He wouldn't even see it. But the conversation confirmed his worst fear. The cover-up went to the highest level, making his father, and therefore, the Cole legacy, a co-conspirator. Ethan's father admitted he sealed the file and facilitated the quick expulsion. Ethan also realized the extent of his own guilt. He had always given Grace the benefit of the doubt, believing her over the one person who deserved his trust. Ethan left with a fresh mission, to find the original file, which now felt less like a record of shame and more like a stolen piece of evidence. Ethan's next move wasn't calling a lawyer. It was calling Samantha Lee, the student who recorded the viral clip. He tracked her down at her university library. Samantha, still dressed in a hoodie, was not starstruck. She was focused, intense, and deeply cynical. Mr. Cole, I'll take a meeting if you're actually interested in the truth, not just a PR cleanup, she said, leaning across the quiet library table. I didn't upload that video for fame. I did it because it fits into my actual project. What project? Ethan asked. Samantha pulled out a small hard drive. A documentary. I've been recording harassment and subtle racism in low-wage service jobs for 6 months. I call it Invisible Workers. Derek Wells was my star villain before you even showed up. Ethan felt a surge of respect. Do you have anything else on him? I have everything, Samantha said. I knew he was a bad guy, but I didn't know he was connected to Alana's past until I went through the archival footage after the viral clip went live. She plugged the hard drive in her laptop and pulled up a specific, shaky audio file from 2 weeks prior. The sound quality was poor, but Derek's voice was unmistakable. Derek, muttering to a colleague, she thinks she's so smart. Too good for this job. She should be grateful she even has it. She deserved what happened back then, honestly. Keeps the pretentious ones humble. Ethan's fists clenched. What did he mean? What happened back then? Exactly, Samantha agreed. That's when I connected the dots. I cross-referenced him. He wasn't just a manager. He was a petty blackmailer using her past shame to keep her compliant. It made him feel powerful. The question isn't just about justice for Alana. It's about ensuring that powerful people don't use their platforms to silence the marginalized. Comment yes if you agree. Do you know what he was blackmailing her over? Ethan asked. Samantha shook her head. No, but whatever Alana is hiding, it's worse than the cheating scandal. Derek kept saying it would end her search for good if she talked. Ethan felt a sinking sense of dread. Alana was not just protecting her dignity. She was protecting a secret more devastating than the loss of a scholarship. The shame that followed the expulsion had clearly forced her into a corner where she made a mistake Derek was leveraging. Samantha, thank you, Ethan said, standing up. I need copies of everything. Your project just became my priority. It's always been Alana's priority, Mr. Cole, Samantha reminded him quietly. You're just catching up. Ethan walked out of the library, the viral fame meaningless. He had helped expose the boss, but he still hadn't figured out the true danger Alana was running from. Derek Wells was spiraling, suspended from his job, his face plastered all over social media. He was now facing the financial ruin of a lost career. He had nothing left to lose, except the leverage he held over Alana. He tracked Alana to the small, anonymous apartment she shared with her mother. He banged on the door, frantic. "Alana, open up. We need to talk about that video. I can help you, but you need to help me first." Marla, frail and protective, opened the door a crack. "She's not here, Derek. Go away. I know she is. This is important." Derek pushed his way in, spotting Alana sitting at the kitchen table, calmly drinking tea. "You need to tell the owners that Ethan Cole forced you to record that video, that you fabricated the claims of racism, and that you quit immediately," Derek demanded. "If you do that, I get my job back, and I won't have to release the file." Alana slowly set down her mug. "What file, Derek?" "The one that shows you lying to Ethan about my past. The one about Marcus, Alana. The police file. The one that says you were negligent. The one that means you'll never see him again, even if you find him." Derek's voice dropped to a hateful whisper. "I know why you work 3 jobs and why you're saving money. Don't push me, Brooks. I will end your search." Alana's calm shattered. The blood drained from her face, revealing the bone-deep terror she usually hid. "You don't know anything," Alana said, her voice shaking. "I know the night they took him," Derek snarled, getting close to her face. "I know the night you got that pathetic criminal record. You were 18, starving, and made a mistake. A mistake that means you're considered a danger to your own child. That's why you lost the scholarship. That's why you lost the boy. And that's why you were stuck here." Marla stood up, her hand shaking as she pointed toward the door. "Get out of her house. You will never speak that name again." Derek, satisfied he had landed the blow, backed away. "Think about it. You go quiet, I go quiet. We both get what we need." He slammed the door shut. Alana sat back down, head in her hands. The secret was out. She had a son, Marcus, and her fight for him was tied to a decade-old criminal record. Twist, the crime she had a record for, the one Derek was holding over her head, wasn't about a deliberate wrong. It was about being too poor and too young when the system failed her. Derek knew this, and he was leveraging the system's cruelty. She lifted her head, her eyes suddenly clear and hard. "Mom, pull out that old legal aid file. The one with the date of the police report. I need to know the exact date." Marla, terrified, brought the worn folder. Alana scanned the date on the old police report, the one that gave her the record and cost her her son. It was the same night as the Ridgeway High exam scandal. "Now you know the stakes. Alana's criminal record and the loss of her son, Marcus, are tied directly to the night she was framed at Ridgeway High. This isn't just about a scholarship. It's about a total, organized destruction of her life. We were forced to go back one last time to that rainy night 10 years ago. Alana had stayed late to study in the empty library. She heard strange noises coming from the administrative wing, the wing with the safe where the final exam papers were stored. She was too ethical, too focused, to ignore it. She crept toward the sounds and saw 2 figures near the safe. Derek Wells, then a quiet, older student who worked as an evening janitorial assistant, and Grace Holloway, Ethan's wealthy, popular girlfriend. They were working together. Grace was using a key card, and Derek was using his employee access code. They were stealing the papers. Alana stepped out of the shadow. "What are you doing?" Derek froze, but Grace didn't. Grace was always 2 steps ahead. "Alana, thank goodness," Grace cried, immediately dropping the papers. "Derek was trying to break in. He told me he saw someone suspicious. He told me he needed help contacting the principal, but he just tried to force me to help him steal the exams." Derek stared at Grace in raw panic. "That's a lie, Alana. She's the one who paid me." Grace smoothly recovered, her eyes locking onto Alana. "He planted the papers in your locker, Alana. He threatened me. Help me stop him, Alana." Alana, momentarily confused by the sudden, convincing reversal, hesitated. That was her mistake. Grace used the distraction to slip away and call the principal's private line. She reported a break-in in progress and named Alana as the co-conspirator caught trying to leave the scene. Before Alana could move, the police arrived for a different incident. Alana's life broke into 2 simultaneous disasters. The exam scandal. She was arrested for trespassing and theft at the school. The actual exam papers were found in her locker, where Derek planted them seconds before. The school board, controlled by Ethan's father, quickly expelled her to contain the scandal. The criminal record, because the arrest was close to her home, police found Marla, who was too sick to care for herself, and discovered a long-expired eviction notice. Social services was called. The court saw the high school expulsion, the theft charge, and the poverty. They declared her financially and morally unfit to care for a minor, and the baby boy, Marcus, was taken into temporary custody. Grace and Derek weren't just working together. They were secretly dating back then. Their joint operation was designed to steal the scholarship and finance a life together. When Alana interrupted, they sacrificed her in the most brutal way possible. Grace used the school to destroy Alana's future, and Derek used the poverty to destroy her family. Alana had to move fast. She couldn't tell Ethan Cole the truth. Not yet. Her silence was protection, and his constant need to fix her was a liability. She was done being the project of a rich white man's guilt. She drove to her mother's favorite park bench, the place they always talked about serious things. "Mom, Derek knows about Marcus," Alana stated, her voice shaking. Marla, frail but sharp, clutched a photo of a smiling little boy. "He will use it, baby. He'll use the record. He already is. But the fact that he knows means someone else knows, too. Someone from the foundation that picked up my resignation note." Alana's mind was racing. Who would want my resignation note besides a company worried about a lawsuit? "Someone who wants you to stay quiet, Alana," Marla said, her voice dropping. "Someone who wants you to fail." Alana finally broke down, the image of Marcus, now 7 years old, flashing in her mind. "I can't lose him again, Mom. I just found his last known foster care placement." I was finally ready to file the motions. Ethan Cole couldn't find Alana through her phone or email, so he went to the only other person he thought might talk to him. Her mother, Marla. He found him on the park bench. "Alana, please, just talk to me," Ethan pleaded, sitting down a respectful distance away. "I know about Derek. I know he was trying to blackmail you. What is he threatening to release?" Alana stared straight ahead. "It's none of your business, Ethan. You did your heroic defense. The media is happy. Now go away. I have proof that Derek was at Ridgeway. I know he was lying. Let me help you get ahead of this, Alana. You're fighting a secret, and I can fight a system." Marla, seeing the sincerity and desperation in Ethan's eyes, made a quick, painful decision. She was tired of watching her daughter suffer alone. "He's threatening her son," Marla whispered to Ethan. Ethan froze. "Her son? What are you talking about?" "She had a son when she was 20. She was a kid. She was broke. She was sick. And she had that police record. They took him. Social services. Marcus." Marla finally broke down, covering her face. "She's been fighting every day for 7 years to get him back. That's why she worked at the diner. Every penny was for the lawyer." The raw truth hit Ethan harder than any corporate disaster. This wasn't guilt he felt now. It was shame. Ethan looked at Alana, seeing her not as a wronged student, but as a devastated, fighting mother. He finally understood the stakes, the desperation, the pure, undiluted fire in her eyes. "Alana, give me the date of the police report," Ethan asked, his voice now entirely focused. "Give me the boy's name." Alana looked at her mother, who nodded, then back at Ethan. She knew that giving him the information was the most dangerous, most vulnerable thing she could do. "His name is Marcus Brooks," she whispered. "And the last agency that had him—" Ethan used his corporate connections to immediately start tracking the adoption and foster care agencies associated with the case. Within an hour, his legal team found the latest placement. The last agency listed as holding Marcus was a nonprofit foster care foundation. The foundation's biggest charitable donor, its founder, and its principal trustee was Ethan Cole's own company. Ethan's entire empire was built on the same foundations that stole Alana's child. She needed a clean slate. He offered her a check. Ethan was in motion now, driven by a desperate, sickening urge to fix the disaster his privilege had caused. He couldn't undo the past, but he could use his resources to secure Marcus's future. He acted anonymously, pouring his considerable wealth into Alana's old legal aid account. He hired the best family law attorney in the state to quietly begin the motions to terminate the temporary guardianship and petition for Alana's full custody. He didn't want gratitude. He just wanted to stop the bleeding. Alana, meanwhile, was at the public library, struggling to afford basic legal copies, when her old, dusty legal aid account suddenly showed a transfer of an impossible amount of money, enough to hire 5 lawyers and secure 2 apartments. She knew instantly who it was. She felt a fierce, burning humiliation. She called the lawyer whose name was now attached to her case. Who authorized this funding? I need name. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Simone, only gave her a carefully worded answer. The funding came through a charitable foundation dedicated to social equity. It was a one-time anonymous donation, Ms. Brooks. It's entirely legal, and it's enough to get Marcus back. Anonymous? This money isn't anonymous. It's guilt money. Alana spat into the phone. Tell your donor, I don't need their charity. I earned my way out of that diner. I'll earn Marcus back, too. I don't want his redemption. Ms. Brooks, you have to understand the gravity of the situation, Simone urged. This isn't about pride. This is about your son. Use the money. It's yours now. Alana hung up, her hands shaking. She felt controlled, patronized. Ethan couldn't stand to see her struggle, so he tried to buy her dignity. She decided to find out exactly where the charitable foundation money came from. It took her most of the day, but using the name Simone provided, she traced the organization back through 3 shell companies to its main holding entity. Her blood ran cold when she saw the logo. The Foster Care Foundation, the one that managed Marcus's case, was a subsidiary of Cole Tech Solutions, Ethan's billion-dollar tech company. The anonymous donation was money from the same system that declared her an unfit mother. Alana realized with horrifying clarity that Ethan hadn't just seen her. He had bought control over her most vulnerable life detail. He was trying to use the same corporate power structure that ruined her to save her without her permission. She grabbed her coat. I'm going to see him, Mom. I'm going to end this today. Alana, be careful. He has all the power now. No, Alana said, pulling the key out of her lock. He has money. I have the truth, and I'm going to tell it to his face. Do you think Ethan's help was driven by guilt or a genuine desire to correct a wrong? Drop a comment below. Alana didn't wait for an appointment. She walked past the confused security in the lobby of the shimmering Cole Tech Tower, wearing the same tired boots she wore at the diner. She took the elevator straight up to the executive floor, the silence of the ride intensifying her rage. She burst through the heavy glass doors of Ethan's outer office. His executive assistant gasped. Ethan was in a meeting with 2 well-dressed board members. He looked up, his face instantly draining of color when he saw her standing there, a storm in cheap cotton and old denim, in the heart of his corporate sanctuary. Alana, what are you doing here? I was trying to call you, Ethan said, standing quickly, dismissing his board members with a frantic wave. The 2 executives, stiff, older men who smelled of expensive cologne, paused, clearly recognizing the face from the viral video. They watched the confrontation with open curiosity. You need to explain this, Alana demanded, slamming the file folder detailing the financial transfer onto his polished glass table. The papers slid across the reflective surface. You don't get to buy your redemption, Ethan. You don't get to fix me with your stolen money. It's not stolen money. It's my money, and I was trying to help you secure Marcus, Ethan pleaded, stepping toward her. You need the best legal help. I don't need your help. You own the foundation that holds my son. Do you understand the irony of that? 10 years ago, your money, your father, and your girlfriend destroyed my future. Now, you think you could just pay for a new one? Alana's voice cracked, but she pushed through the pain. You thought I was a cheat then, and now you think I'm a charity case. You never saw me as a person. Ethan desperately lowered his voice, trying to control the scene unfolding in front of his board. Alana, please. I know what Grace did. I found out the truth. That money is reparations, not charity. I was trying to make sure you won. You want to win? Then fight me fairly, she challenged. I want the world to know the truth. I want to face the system that took my son, and I want to beat it myself, without your name attached to it. You're being irrational, one of the board members interjected, stepping closer. Mr. Cole is offering you an unprecedented settlement. You should accept it and cease this public disruption. Alana didn't even look at the man. I will not be bought. Suddenly, a voice, smooth and deceptively sweet, cut through the tension. Such drama. Doesn't she ever learn to control her temper, Ethan? Grace Holloway walked out of the inner conference room, looking every bit the high-powered PR executive she had become. She wore a tailored white suit and a practiced, cold smile. She held a tablet in her hand, scrolling through something that looked important. Grace, the architect of Alana's original downfall, wasn't just working at Coltech. She was Ethan's PR executive, managing his public image and likely covering up the corporate ties to the foundation. Her appearance confirmed that the betrayal wasn't over. It had simply gotten a promotion. Grace looked Alana up and down, a look of contemptuous pity. I thought you'd be grateful, Alana. Some people never appreciate a second chance. Grace's reappearance wasn't a coincidence. It was a strategic move. She was there to protect the Coltech image, and Alana was the new threat to that image. Ethan, perhaps you should escort Ms. Brooks out, Grace suggested smoothly, addressing the board members and ignoring Alana entirely. She seems distressed. We wouldn't want her to say something she regrets. Alana stepped forward, fueled by adrenaline. You think I regret the truth? You stole my scholarship, Grace. You set me up for cheating and then used my poverty to get my son taken away. Grace merely shook her head and chuckled. Such serious accusations. You really need to stop believing your own stories, Alana. You were caught with the exams, and your son was taken by the state because you couldn't keep a stable address. That has nothing to do with me. Ethan finally stepped between the two women. Grace, I know the truth. Derek Wells was at Ridgeway. You intercepted Alana's messages. The charity money is for my foundation, which you oversee. You should be silent. Grace's smile tightened, a terrifying mask of control. You're confused, Ethan, but I'm not. The public sees you as a savior. They see her as a desperate, angry woman looking for a handout. She tapped her tablet. Let's see what happens when the narrative shifts. Ethan looked at her, his blood running cold. What did you do? I simply reminded the internet who Alana really is, Grace replied, her eyes glittering. Within the hour, the internet turned on Alana. Anonymous, high-traffic gossip sites and social media feeds started circulating doctored photos. One showed a heavily edited picture of Alana and Ethan looking intimately close at a dinner, implying a long-standing affair. Another suggested Alana was using the racism video to extort money from Ethan. The new narrative was vicious. Waitress used scandal to blackmail Billionaire. Alana, now receiving a torrent of new hate messages, lost 2 job offers she had lined up, and her lawyer Simone was threatened with disbarment. They're calling me a homewrecker and a gold digger, Alana whispered, showing Ethan her phone. Every time I get close to getting Marcus back, you or someone connected to you knocks me down. Ethan looked at his company, his wealth, and his powerful name. It wasn't a shield anymore. It was a weapon that kept hurting Alana. He saw his own father's cold indifference reflected in Grace's eyes. He realized the only way to stop the weapon was to remove himself from it. He walked over to his laptop, completely ignoring the stunned board members. I can't fight Grace while I'm CEO, Alana, Ethan stated, his voice calm and firm. I can't use Coltech resources to fight Coltech corruption. It won't work. He opened a blank document, pulled up the company letterhead, and started typing a resignation letter. Ethan made the ultimate sacrifice. To prove his genuine commitment to Alana's justice and to strip Grace of her corporate cover, he gave up the very thing Grace coveted, his power. Ethan, stop. You can't resign over a waitress, the board chairman stammered. You're right, Ethan said, looking up, his eyes clear for the first time in 10 years. I'm resigning over a mother who deserves her son, and over the integrity my family lost a decade ago. With Ethan's public resignation, the media storm shifted from Billionaire defends Waitress to corporate civil war. Grace, still in her PR role, leaked stories claiming Ethan was mentally unstable and reacting emotionally to an alleged affair with Alana, using his family's wealth to pay her off. Ethan was now vulnerable, but he was also free. He teamed up with Samantha Lee, the student filmmaker, who was deeply invested in exposing the truth behind corporate power structures. Grace is using every tool she has to paint me as the unstable one, Ethan told Samantha in a coffee shop far from the Coltech Tower. We need physical proof that her entire career is built on a lie. We need the original, unedited file from Ridgeway. I can't hack the school board, but I can hack the low-security systems they used back then, Samantha stated, pulling up her laptop. It's ancient architecture. They probably used the same server for student records and maintenance logs. She worked for hours, tapping into the archival cloud that Ridgeway High had archived a decade ago. It was a digital maze of forgotten files and broken links, but Samantha was relentless. Got it. She finally breathed, her eyes wide. I found a secondary folder named Non-Indexable Incident Reports. This wasn't meant to be found. The folder contained a digitized, handwritten note from a man named Mr. Ramirez, a janitor who worked the late shift at Ridgeway. The janitor's confession, Mr. Ramirez detailed what he saw that rainy night. He described seeing Derek and Grace working together, placing something in Alana's locker, and then watching Grace use the emergency phone to call the principal. He confirmed that Alana arrived on the scene after the setup was complete. Ramirez's note, the young lady, Alana Brooks, she was crying. That rich girl, Grace, she looked like ice. The boy, Derek, he looked scared. I know that girl was set up. Ethan felt a sudden, powerful sickness in his stomach. The evidence of Alana's innocence had been sitting in a digital filing cabinet for 10 years while her life was ruined. Samantha scrolled to the bottom of the document where the date was logged. Mr. Ramirez had written the confession and submitted it to the school's internal security one day after the incident. 2 weeks later, there was an update note from the board. Employee Ramirez terminated. Cause of death listed as accidental fall at home. File closed. They didn't just ignore the confession, Ethan whispered, the paper shaking in his hands. They silenced the witness to protect their investment. This is murder or a corporate cover-up of one, Samantha said, her eyes blazing. This is not just theft. This is a criminal conspiracy that goes far beyond a scholarship. The real villain isn't just a spoiled ex-girlfriend. It's a decade-long pattern of power, abusing the powerless. The question is, how do you fight a shadow organization that will kill to keep its secrets? Ethan knew they had to hit back fast, before Grace could spin the janitor's death. He arranged a meeting, not an open confrontation, but a trap. He lured Grace and Derek to a private office, claiming he wanted to negotiate the terms of his resignation. Derek, terrified and jobless, showed up first. Grace arrived 10 minutes later, cool and confident, ready to finalize the collapse of Ethan's reputation. Thank you both for coming, Ethan said, placing Samantha's laptop in the center of the table. I have something I want you both to see. He opened the janitor's file. Derek's face instantly crumbled, recognizing the name and the devastating content. No, that's fake, Derek stammered, pulling out his phone. That's old news. Ethan, I didn't know he died. I swear. Grace didn't flinch. She picked up the laptop, read the note, and then looked at Ethan with an expression of pure, chilling pity. This is weak, Ethan, Grace said, slamming the laptop shut. A janitor's note? From 10 years ago? This proves nothing. It's easily dismissed as the ramblings of a disgruntled, now deceased employee. And if you try to take this to the police, you'll be arrested for corporate espionage and slander. You don't have Coltech backing you anymore, remember? Ethan leaned forward, his voice calm despite the internal fury. You used my father to seal the file. You used my company to manage the foundation that holds Alana's son. You used your position to spread lies about me. Your entire life is built on what you stole from Alana Brooks. Grace finally lost the mask of composure. I earned my position. Alana deserved that shame. She was a threat. She thought she was better than everyone. I took what she wouldn't fight for, and I won. I will always win, Ethan. I will make sure Alana never sees that brat again, and I will make sure you end up broke and alone. Twist. As Grace ranted, driven by years of pent-up bitterness and entitlement, Derek was slowly pulling out his phone under the table. He was recording her. Derek didn't care about Alana, but he saw his own life disappearing because of Grace's cold ambition. He saw her as the reason he lost his job and his stability. His revenge wasn't for Alana, it was for himself. Derek sent the full audio file, Grace's confession of framing Alana, silencing the witness, and threatening Marcus, to Samantha, Lee's encrypted email address. He then stood up, breathing heavily. "I'm out," Derek whispered, looking only at Grace. "You sink this ship by yourself." He walked out, leaving Grace staring at the open laptop, her victory smile now frozen in horror. The audio file was already live, titled The Confession. Everything was stolen. Derek's final act of self-preservation ensured Grace's destruction. Did you expect the victimizer to turn on the mastermind? Tell me in the comments. Justified or pure evil? The audio file released by Derek was a moral earthquake. It was raw, unedited, and contained Grace Holloway's voice, clearly outlining the conspiracy. The scandal wasn't just corporate, it was criminal. Grace was arrested that afternoon for fraud, corporate espionage, and obstruction of justice related to the janitor's case. Derek, having confessed his role in the blackmail and realizing his danger, fled the city before police could track him down. The Coal Tech Board, reeling from the loss of its CEO and the implication of covering up a death, was forced to publicly admit the decade-old truth about Alana Brooks. Alana's name was not just cleared. It became a national symbol of resilience against systemic abuse. The narrative shifted entirely. The Waitress wasn't a charity case. She was a survivor who spent 10 years fighting the consequences of a rich girl's crime. Ethan, now free of Coal Tech, focused all his energy on the court case for Marcus. With the janitor's confession and Grace's explicit admissions, Alana's criminal record was instantly expunged, ruled as coercion during a period of duress. The legal path was clear. A week later, Alana and Marcus, a bright-eyed boy who knew her only as a dedicated visitor, were reunited in a tearful hearing. "He's home, Mom," Alana cried to Marla, holding Marcus tightly. "He's home." Ethan watched the reunion from the back row. He didn't approach them. He knew his role was done. Alana was offered her original Monroe scholarship money, plus interest and an apology from the school board. She accepted the apology, but politely declined the money. She also made a choice that stunned Ethan. "Ethan," she said later that week, standing in his small, temporary office. "Thank you. You lost your whole life to give me mine back. I am grateful for that sacrifice. I did what I should have done 10 years ago," he said simply. "What now?" "Now, I have to choose my own path," Alana stated. "I can't build a future for Marcus on the foundation of your guilt. We need a completely clean break." Twist. Alana refused Ethan's help, the settlement, and his presence. She moved her mother and Marcus to a quiet city on the West Coast, a place where no one knew the names Cole, Holloway, or Brooks. She left Ethan only a brief, formal note. She had her son and her freedom. She owed Ethan nothing, and she took the radical step of starting over entirely alone. 3 years later, Ethan Cole was barely recognizable as the tech billionaire. He ran a small, fiercely ethical nonprofit focused on fighting educational inequality, the exact injustice that stole Alana's future. He wore comfortable sweaters instead of tailored suits, and his face was lined with earned purpose, not stress. He was attending a small, local charity dinner hosted by a women's advocacy group. He was seated in the back, content to be a quiet donor. A young boy, about 10 years old, walked onto the stage to give a keynote speech about the importance of opportunity. He was confident, articulate, and wore a bow tie that looked slightly too big for him. Ethan froze, a glass of water halfway to his lips. The boy's hair, the intensity of his focus, the slight stiffness in his posture, it was all too familiar. "My name is Marcus," the boy began, his voice surprisingly strong. 3 years ago, my life changed because of the strength of one person. She taught me that sometimes the people who look like they have everything are the most trapped, and the people who look like they have nothing are the most free. Marcus paused, scanning the crowd. "I used to think my mother was just a waitress," he continued. Now, I know she's the smartest, bravest person in the world. She's not afraid of anything because she already lost everything and got it all back using only her mind and her dignity. Marcus smiled, his eyes shining. Twist. Tonight, Marcus concluded, I want to thank the most important person in my life, the mother I'm proud of, Alana Brooks. Alana rose from a table in the front. She wasn't wearing a stained apron or a tired expression. She wore a confident, simple dress, her hair beautifully styled, her eyes luminous with peace. She was a woman who had built her life back, brick by painful brick. She had become an advocate and a force for change in her new community. She looked exactly at Ethan, seated in the back corner. Their eyes met, and the connection was undeniable. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was a deep, mutual respect forged in the ruins of their shared past. It was the moment of complete, unburdened forgiveness. Marcus ran off the stage and hugged his mother fiercely. Ethan could only watch, a lump in his throat. He finally saw the life she had created. It was everything she had fought for, and it was built without him. Ethan left the charity event, his heart simultaneously broken and full. The sight of Alana and Marcus together was the true payment for his sacrifice. He drove home slowly, the rain having stopped. When he reached his car, parked on a side street, he found a small, plain manila envelope tucked neatly under his windshield wiper. It wasn't a ticket. He opened it, his fingers trembling. Inside was a simple, worn leather-bound journal, an old ledger, and a handwritten note. The note was in Alana's familiar, elegant script. Ethan, I kept this journal from Ridgeway. I used to write everything in it, my dreams, my anger, my goals. You once thought I needed saving, but you didn't save me. You helped me remember who I was by finally admitting the truth about yourself. Thank you for the only thing I truly needed, the truth. Alana. Ethan carefully opened the ledger. It was filled with old essay outlines, notes on chemistry, and desperate, angry poetry written the week after her expulsion. He turned to the very last page of the journal. It wasn't a diary entry. It was a list. The title, written neatly across the top, was The Ledger of Forgiveness. The first name on the list, written 10 years ago, was Ethan Cole, followed by her father's name, the principal, and finally, Grace Holloway. Next to the list, in small, determined letters, was a concluding line, The world owes me nothing. I owe my son everything. Ethan broke down, tears streaming down his face. He realized she never stopped believing in people, even the ones who failed her. The anger he had seen was only the surface. Underneath was a core of forgiveness he couldn't have imagined. As he wiped his eyes, a small, faded, square piece of paper fell out of the ledger spine. It was a photo, a kindergarten class photo, taken 20 years ago. In the center, smiling, were 3 children, a tiny, fierce Alana, a confused, serious Ethan, and a giggling Grace. They were friends long before the scandal, long before the money, long before the betrayal. Alana had kept the evidence of their shared humanity all these years. He realized the whole story wasn't about him fixing her. It was about Alana, the only true innocent, waiting for him to finally catch up to the man she always knew he could be. The greatest revenge isn't achieving success, it's choosing forgiveness. This is a story about how the truth always finds a way out. If this story of betrayal, sacrifice, and redemption resonated with you, subscribe now before the next real-life twist catches you off guard.